Ex-wife's wedding destroyed by her boring ex. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. She left me a sticky note and a plate of reheated lasagna, that was it. No dramatic shouting, no tears, just her handwritten words. One day you'll find someone who moves to your beat. Beside it, she left a casserole dish still covered with aluminum foil from the night before. That was 4 years ago. Now I hold a fancy wedding invitation, embossed with gold lettering that says, "Carter and David Anderson request the honor of your presence." My name on the RSVP line. But honestly, it feels more like she's inviting me to a book club than to watch her start a new chapter. Instead of a grand reveal of her new life, she wants me to see her in white again, wants me to sit quietly in the back pew and marvel at what she's traded up for. What she doesn't realize is that stay isn't hers anymore. I filled out the reply card and marked gladly attending no +1, no distraction needed. Always thought silence equaled weakness. She believed walking away without slamming the door made me dull. But silence isn't empty, it's heavy. It pulls people in, makes them lean closer, desperate to fill it. She'll figure that out soon enough. I booked a flight under my middle name, rented a car from 2 towns over, even bought new shoes, though I'm not planning to break them in before the big day. She set the stage, so I'll let her have the spotlight. Maybe before we go any further, a quick favor. If you're listening, 98% of the folks watching this channel haven't hit that subscribe button yet. We're crafting something raw, real, and razor-sharp here, and your one click can help us finally crack that first 10-0. It's not just about numbers, it's about fueling our crew to keep sharpening these stories, going deeper. Thanks for that. Back to she's funny in her own way. She always hated how I folded my shirts, said I was obsessed with tidiness. But that day she left in such a rush, the storage unit key hidden inside her old jewelry box, the ledger I'd moved to the garage, backup drives labeled 2012 taxes that weren't taxes at all. That key was step 1. The second step, a name. Miller, young and ambitious, founder of some startup selling empathy tracking software to HR departments. And charming, the kind of charming that makes your mom flirt and your best friend raise an eyebrow. They got engaged within 18 months. She posted an announcement with the caption, "Took a leap, fell into something real." I printed and framed it, not out of heartbreak but precision. I don't hold grudges, I catalog them. What doesn't know, and probably still doesn't, is that her father and I once sat across from each other in a federal courtroom. Different suits, same silence. I remember how he looked down when the verdict was read, the slight twitch in his jaw, that flash of recognition when he realized he'd been caught. Now he's walking his son down the aisle. I arrived 2 days before the wedding. Small town, old brick church, creeping ivy. I drove past the venue twice and no one noticed. Wouldn't expect me to show up. She probably sent that invite assuming I'd ignore it, or maybe she secretly hoped I'd come crawling back, regretful. Either way, she misjudged me. I checked into a motel on the 2nd floor, no view, so I pulled the curtains tight. Ironed my shirt, laid out the sealed envelope I brought inside my jacket's lining, a copy of the very document her future father-in-law never thought would see the light of day again. Signed, notarized, mostly forgotten, but not by me. I slept like a soldier on recon, shallow but ready. Morning arrived. I got dressed slowly, no tie, crisp cuffs, a pocket square matching the gold embossing on her invites. Beige, let's call it performative closure. I drove and parked 3 blocks away, then walked the rest of the way. Come as a Sunday storm, they say revenge is best served cold. They're wrong. Revenge is best served silent. Like a man you thought was history, quietly watching Act 2 of your delusion unfold, knowing full well the final curtain belongs to him. Didn't cry when she left. She smiled, that smug, satisfied little smile she used after winning an argument she never really understood. She stood in the doorway, wearing a silk blouse I'd never seen, holding a Louis suitcase still with a gift tag. Her hair curled, lips done not for me. "You're too safe," she said, like she was diagnosing a mild allergy. I want passion, not spreadsheets. I remember looking at her 4-inch heels. She said they hurt her arches, but I guess when a woman's excited, she's bulletproof. She didn't slam the door, just clicked it shut, like she was heading to a spa weekend, not ending a 17-year marriage. No affairs, no yelling, just an exit. She moved in with before the coffee cooled, a startup guy in his mid-30s, teeth and charm everywhere. I saw a video of him at some conference, gesturing like a magician selling impossible things, teasing disruption. Maybe was in the audience, or maybe she'd already be in his hotel room. Hard to tell. I didn't fight, didn't call, didn't post cryptic quotes about growth or healing. I just deleted her number, set my calendar on fire, and made a different, quiet to-do list. Here's the thing never understood. I do. Make scenes, I build systems. She thought she erased me, she only archived me. Now she's walking down a marble aisle in an overpriced dress, arm in arm with a man who once spent 3 months trying to sue the government into silence. His name still echoes in sealed court transcripts. In 2001, he almost lost everything because of refused bribes. That's me. Doesn't know that. Why would he? Men like him don't read history. They rewrite it with daddy's money and PR teams. But his father remembers. We shared more than a courtroom. There was a moment he realized I wasn't just a cog, I was the whole machine. Now he's watching his son say, "I do," in front of the man who nearly dismantled his empire. Fate's a funny thing. The wedding venue is grand, a restored cathedral in a town too small for marble lions on the gate. Loves theatrics. The guest list probably includes her Pilates friends, those who said she was glowing during the separation, maybe some cryptocurrency bros, maybe her sister, who once drunkenly told me I was the best thing that ever happened to. Yeah, I was. Boring until I pulled the pin. I arrived early like always. Efficiency is just controlled patience. I sat in the second-to-last pew, perfect seat to see everything. The stained glass cast warm amber light and probably thought it suited her complexion. The guests arrived like confetti, champagne, laughter, handshakes, veiled envy, perfume, ego. It's exactly what she wanted, chaos that looks spontaneous. Then the doors swung open. She entered like she owned the show, head high, a smile calculated for perfect angles. Her dress was sculpted to appear effortless in her comfort zone. When the whispers quieted, she locked eyes with, and I swear I saw that flash of triumph, as if that moment proved she was right to leave. And for a split second I let her believe it, until's father, Charles Malden, turned. Sitting front row, flanked by his attorneys in groomsmen suits, his eyes fixed on me. And in that moment, I saw the shock, the flicker that said he recognized me. He saw the ghost from the courtroom. The man who stood up to his crew of lawyers and refused to settle, the man who said no deal. His face drained, pupils shrinking, a vein pulsing on his forehead. He handed the program to the guy next to him like a detonator. I watched him take it, and suddenly everything unraveled. Looked confident, joking with the priest, acting like the star of his own scene. I arrived early, 37 minutes, in a plain suit, no tie. People tend to believe if you look like you belong, they won't question your presence. The church filled slowly, laughter filling the vaulted space. Friends, her old PR acquaintances, whispered in clusters. One guy with slick-back hair pointed at me, realized he didn't know me, and shrugged. Perfect. Bridesmaids strutted in, auditioning for a part. And then she appeared, her modern, smug bride look. And dress white with attitude, tight sleeves, exposed back, signaling elegance and rebellion. She wasn't heading toward, she was heading toward her own victory, that little "I told you so" in human form. She smiled as she glided down the aisle, the kind of confidence that's almost provoking, until she caught my eye. She didn't bother to look at me directly. She glanced past, over the guests, not even pretending to recognize me. That version of me no longer exists. But the man in the front row, Charles Malden, he saw me. Sitting with his wife, or perhaps another mistress, he held the program with a sharp grip. When his eyes met mine, the color drained instantly. His expression froze, that subtle shake of his fingers tightening on the paper. He knew. He recognized me. I saw that memory hit him as if a shard of glass had sliced his calm. The courtroom scene, the young engineer refusing to settle the moment he realized he was powerless. He dropped the program, stood slowly like a man stalling a collapse, obliviously grinned, waved at someone, thrust himself into his role. His confident act, his jokes, the reverence, all belief in a script he thought he owned. I was there early, behind the scenes, watching him. I could have been any guest, a cousin, a florist, an outsider, just a man in a plain gray suit. People tend to accept that if you look like you belong, they won't ask questions. The crowd arrived, full of chatter, laughter, everything staged to seem natural. Then she walked in. The star performer. Her gown was modern, a statement of arrogance, white and sculpted with just the right amount of rebellion. Her stride was confident, almost victorious. She didn't walk toward, she walked toward her triumph, that quiet "I told you so" in flesh. She glided down the aisle, the soft tug of her veil, the sparkle of her jewelry, the arrogance in her pose. And just as she passed, she glanced past the crowd and saw me. Didn't even flinch, probably never recognized me. That version of me isn't here anymore, but Charles saw me. He sat with his wife, eyes locked onto mine, tight-lipped. That flicker of surprise, the subtle quickening of his grip, he knew. He recognized me. I watched that moment hit him like a sniper shot. The courtroom, the fight, the refusal, all wrapped in that quiet expression. Then the moment that unraveled everything. The groom looked at his father and then at me. He whispered something, and Charles, without a word, snatched the envelope from my hands. Fast, deliberate, like a verdict. Face stayed neutral, but I saw the blood drain from his face. He read the document silently, then looked back at, frozen like a statue. Without raising his voice or shedding tears, he simply said, "You need to sit down," and the entire church went silent. Hands trembled, just a tiny shake like a leaf in a gust. He looked out at the crowd, then back at me, and finally at her, standing frozen in her pose. And then he spoke, quiet but piercing. "You need to sit down." The silence in the room grew thick, was trying to process everything, shoulders tense, eyes searching. But I could see he knew deep down that this wasn't just a wedding anymore. The envelope wasn't thick, but it was heavy with history. Court documents from 1996, sealed, referencing securities fraud, the defendant being a company linked to my name. I'd flagged the fraud, taken a stand. Because of me, the project was canceled, the finances were diverted, and Charles's empire shrank that year. But he covered his tracks, liquidated assets, pushed the blame, and moved everything into Malden metrics. The company his son now claimed to build from a garage, but which really started with a fat wire transfer. 2 months earlier, that was what was in the envelope, not just the old documents, the blueprint that tied golden future to poison roots. With every page he read, his face lost color. The money he'd banked, the empire he believed in, was built on lies. His father, the man in the suit, had been a thief. And standing there in her designer dress, waiting for him to say, "I do," had never once asked where it all came from. She didn't want to know. She craved excitement. Now she was about to get it, all laid out in cold, legal language, sealed with wax, delivered from the man she left behind in silence. Always thought she was in the room, especially about money. Her prenup was her masterpiece. She brought it up 6 weeks into their relationship, called it just a formality. But she made sure her friends knew she'd secured her future with one document. The tone, sweet on the surface, dripping with contempt underneath. Like someone who thinks they're smarter than the man beside her. Didn't blink when she asked him to sign. He was in love, maybe just drunk on the fact that someone like so sharp, so elegant wanted him. Signed it before brunch. What she didn't realize, I'd already read it. Her lawyer trusted estate pro from Westwood and someone I'd once shared a war room with during the fallout. We'd gone through hundreds of pages of ledger sheets together. Knew the smell of dirty money before the ink dried. Called him, likely bragging about how her boring ex was probably still clipping coupons. So I made a call. Did something wouldn't expect, he sabotaged her. Under the asset section, he slipped in a clause so subtle most wouldn't notice. It said, if any property, business, or contributions are discovered to come from undisclosed illegal or fraudulent sources, the uninformed party keeps their assets and community property becomes null. In plain English, if the money used to build's empire came from poison, she gets nothing. If the roots are rotten, she gains nothing. And the envelope I brought, more than court transcripts, more than articles, was that document. A confidential settlement. It had a signature, a seal, and a stipulation of silence in exchange for immunity. Charles thought it was buried, but I knew better. Every dollar brought into that marriage was tainted. And as he read each page, his face turned pale. The business he loved was a lie. His father, the man who raised him, was a criminal. All because she never asked, never really wanted to know where the money came from. She wanted excitement, and now she'd get it served cold in legal language, sealed in wax. When I left the church, I didn't look back. The doors shut behind me, locking away the destruction. His wedding became a cautionary tale. In the days that followed, she vanished from social media, her carefully curated life disappearing, replaced by articles discussing the wedding that was. Within 2 days, an investor pulled out of his next round. A luxury vendor posted a now-deleted rant on Tik, and Instagram, once full of brunch photos and pretty captions, went dark. She'd spent years building her brand around being a lifestyle coach for women who didn't settle, but now people mocked her. "You got downgraded, sweetheart," they commented. "Went silent too, no more. Public appearances, no more press, no more Charles in the headlines." Had already quit her job 6 months before, called herself retired, even with student debt. She drained joint accounts on glasses and imported bathtubs, then moved out before the wedding, telling her landlord she didn't need a backup plan anymore. But the venue never refunded. They sued her for breach, damages, and the trauma she left behind. Neither nor Charles answered her calls anymore. She spun it as mutual, saying they realized they were better as friends, but the truth was clearer. By Friday, she sent me a message, just one line, no emojis, no punctuation. "What did I ever do to you to deserve this?" I stared at it calm. The audacity to pretend she didn't know what she'd done. Leaving me for a flashier man and flaunting it as a trophy that wasn't enough. Inviting me to watch her level up, not for closure but for show. She knew. She always knew. I didn't reply. Silence was what started this, and silence would finish it. It was raining the last time I saw her, not the cinematic kind, just a steady drizzle. Quiet, softening the city's skyline, making people more cautious, forcing apologies. I was at the library on a Tuesday, quiet, a place I liked because no one asked questions. The old wood tables, overpriced espresso, hushed pages turning. No interruptions. Then she spoke. Thomas, her voice small, not the I remembered. The one who whispered at an engagement party I wasn't built for greatness. This woman sat in flat shoes and a raincoat, probably never expected to be seen. She sat down before I did, and I simply closed my book and looked up. Her eyes were glassy, not from the rain. "I really did love you once," she said, fingers clutching her purse as if it might keep her grounded. I sipped my cold coffee, no longer warm. "You loved a mirror you could never quite see," I told her. "And when I stopped reflecting what you wanted, you smashed the mirror and called growth." She blinked. No words. She looked exhausted, the kind of tired that no cream or workout could fix. The tired of betting everything on a fake and losing. She whispered, "I wasn't trying to hurt you back then." I replied softly, "That doesn't mean you didn't." She looked down, tried to smile, but it looked distorted. "I thought that if I built the perfect life, I'd prove something to you, to everyone." I told her, "It proved something, just not what you thought." I left my half-finished coffee on the table. She didn't stop me, didn't beg. She just sat there as I headed for the door. I glanced back through the window, her small shadow watching me go, as if this was some ending she'd expected to go differently. She never saw me again because I didn't need to shout, rage, or ruin. I ended her story with a smirk and a suitcase. I ended mine with silence.